Hi, my name is Lisa Smith Henderson, and we're glad you're joining us again for another episode of Alma Am I Racist? To find out more about Alma and who she was and the wonderful woman who inspired this podcast, you can go to our website, almaamiracist.com. We continue our discussion with Elka Geising. Her book is called Can We Talk? Will I Listen? A Journey Towards the Healing Power of Dialogue. And it's Elka, Elkegeising, and the book's available on Amazon. Elka talks about her growing up in post-World War Nazi Germany and being descendants of Nazis and what that was like, and her journey towards healing that shame and facing the truth, and then moving to South Africa and discovering in many ways that apartheid was alive and well. I left South Africa 3 years ago after having lived there for 4 years. So it was wonderful to find someone else who was white to talk about their observations of the conditions in South Africa. And one of the things that I noticed, Elka, was not so much in America now, it's gotten better, but in South Africa, it's still extremely apparent, is the deep fear of white people that the Africans have because their livelihoods depend on the white people. The white people were their abusers, the violence against them. So I think some of it on even a cellular level is there. And then practically, yes, like a white person can come on to the estate that we lived on, and the Black African Guard would let a white man get away with something that was not correct because they were afraid. The theme was so strong to not confront a white person, especially a white man.
It's not fear, it's practicality. I mean, I've had this discussion, but this kind of interpretation of Black feelings, we should have a discussion with Black people. We should talk to Alma at length, or maybe Alma's children, how they feel, what trauma they have inherited from the role she had, or the nannies here.
Yes.
Just as a symbol. But I mean, I know from speaking to friends, and again, I'm extremely uncomfortable speaking about Black people's experience and feelings there. We need to talk with each other.
Yes, good point.
I've heard one person say, how do I maneuver? Maintaining my dignity, I have a family that I need to take care of. I have children, I want to come home and be that dignified father to them. So when this white man is abusive to me or yells at me or wants something, to keep my job, I do it. It's not out of fear. It's out of practicality, and in a way, I wish him well because I hope I never sink to that level of emotional poverty. And I have actually, we had a maintenance manager here. I watched the woman who supposedly runs the estate where I live. Because she couldn't break his dignity. She could do anything. She could stand with a stopwatch if he was finishing his work as she thought fast enough or well enough. She was really harassing this man, and he wouldn't lose his dignity. He wouldn't lose his quiet. He wouldn't yell at her, but he also wasn't fearful. Well, he lived in a space. What a poor woman that she's so full of hate. And look how affecting her body. Look how it's affecting her family. Look how people turn away. What a poor soul. He included her in his prayer. That's the most incredible thing. So she made him kneel in the rain, the worst of rain or the worst coldest day, to fix some bricks for everybody to see. And when it was done, he didn't get a cold. He didn't get the flu. He didn't throw anything at her. He also wasn't hateful and condemning her and said, I'm leaving. What a horrible energy. I no longer want this, and I will trust that God, he is a man of faith. God will guide me to a place where I am more respected than here. But Lisa, we really, maybe this leads us to being in dialogue, you and I and Alma or whoever can bring in.
Well, Alma has gone on to the next dimension. She is in heaven watching over us, but I've spoken to her son. And he remembered us being together. My parents actually let him come over when she babysat us. And he said, I remembered we had popcorn. And, she was there 5 days a week, and we would take her home on Friday. And I knew I wouldn't see her till Monday. And I would say, why can't I stay? Why can't I stay? I wanted to stay with her and her family, but it just wasn't done. And I didn't understand that. And I will say to this day, Elka, I still don't understand some of this, the racism. I cannot make my brain make sense of it, just like you can't. You see it, and it's just not right.
No, I can understand, but I don't embrace it. And I actually, at this point, and maybe that's why I was so tense at the beginning of this. I think I need to, what Pumla said resonates deeply in me. It's here to stay with the, what can I do? And I think you have asked this question too. So what does it take for white people to change? I don't know. Do they have to get very sick and very vulnerable? I don't see it with those who are sick that they even want to go there. They're so deeply entrenched in trying to fit into their own closed society. The last thing on their mind is looking at racism and becoming friends with Black people.
And the subtitle of your book is A Journey Towards the Healing Power of Dialogue. So maybe that is, you wrote a book, you made a movie, you did, presentations, and here you and I are talking about it. So maybe this dialogue, it is a teeny beginning.
It's beautiful that you are. It's really beautiful that you're doing this and continue. And I think that's where we land with our acceptance of what we can change and what not, that we do our part. And if we touch one, hopefully 10, maybe 20, but at least we continue being open and being seeking to really hear and to really see the other person and to reveal ourselves as honestly and with all the, including the shame and the shortcomings. I had lunch with family and friends for my birthday. You saw a picture. And the conversation, which was for me even better than the food, and the food was great. The conversation was about, so why is it that, and the executive, the women on the picture are executive in their positions. One runs an investment company as a managing director, all white men, Afrikaans, some English speaking, not that much, just a gradual difference. And why is it that constantly seek to undermine? It's almost automatic that a negative comes out when I speak or walk into the room, and they try to dismantle me. And then I've tried to talk about white psyche, and I go, I sit there with my friends, my family, and I'm struggling for words so I don't come out as a victim or justify white behavior, just straight to the, and it's difficult because we are not used to it. And it takes practice, and it takes a lot of dialogue practice. Let me just say one more thing. So what does it take for us to meet? And they said, be open to see us, be open to hear, be open for the possibility that we can be different than the image you have of us.
Wow. So this takes me back to something in this journey of life that I'm wondering about. And some of the people I know, Black people who are doing heavy duty anti-racist work and have been doing it for many, many years. It seems to be, if we can put the focus on healing ourselves, owning our truth, taking responsibility for our white privilege that we've inherited, and beginning to heal, then that alone will lead us to experiences. And obviously, you've done a tremendous amount of inner psyche and spiritual work. Can you speak to that a little bit? Is it enough for us to work on ourselves and see what springs out of that?
Yeah, a couple of things. I don't think we have a privilege. A privilege is something that is the advantage we enforce by means of power and subjugation. So I don't use the word privilege. I use deliberate power, the structures and oppression. And the second thing I mentioned before, this business of wellness It's an $8 billion business just in the US, and it's huge here, and it's growing. And a lot of white people get a lot of jobs to treat other white people who just forever and the rest of their lives will get into the everything is peaceful, and I'm making my contribution by not using plastic bags for shopping. Ain't gonna work.
Okay.
Ain't gonna work. It's not enough. It's not good enough. And I hear this from friends. We're beyond those little droplets and trickle down. We're beyond it. It's not going to work. What my view is that if we don't make bigger changes, and we have agreed that it will not happen, there's going to be at some point that pressure cooker will blow up. And we have people like Malema and others who were waiting for that, the war. The war, when you think of it, healing myself from what? I mean, I need to open myself to hear a voice of another human being that's been terribly heard by where I come from. And just to hold steady to hear that voice. Because the alternative was, by the grace of Black wisdom, we didn't have a civil war in 1994. We had a president who, with a lot of people, negotiated incredibly hard that we wouldn't have a civil war. And what have we white society, white world, what have we done to deserve that generosity?
Nothing.
No, and I have to be very careful not to get lost in this. I need to heal myself in order to be out there.
But let me ask you, could you have done the work that you've gone on to do if you had never faced your own shame and pain?
I did it while I was doing the work. I mean, I'm saying in the book that being in this, first in this social entrepreneurship project and I still believe that's a way to go, to talk and action. I think there's this neutral third element where you and your Black neighbor, the young Black women around us or people we meet, we come together for a project of creativity. And whether we do music, waterfall, rock garden, we start an entrepreneurial project. I saw it in Rwanda, where you had the Hutus and the Tutsis after the genocide. They were brought together in neutral entrepreneurial projects to do weaving, basket making, making things and starting small businesses. So while that third element brought them together, they also slowly could work through the hatred to the collaboration. I think we need that is an important element that we need to do here.
So you're saying out of the action, we can also begin to heal.
I think action and dialogue must go hand in hand. I had a real identity crisis in the midst of realizing the depth of racism and my own complicity in it, and how the anger and resentment and rejection that came from white people when I spoke about it. I have a very frail part of holding steady against it. I'm still working on having that fearless heart to speak my truth, and it doesn't matter what comes back at me. I reacted to it.
Right.
My identity crisis was, here I am again. I fled from this society. I couldn't handle my parents and what Germans did. I'm in the midst of it. And so instead of running again, I stayed and I went into the dialogue. So I was at the most vulnerable point, and the healing came from the engagement in faith.
Okay.
Together with action. That's
so, the saying, take the action and the behavior will follow. In a way that is,
yes.
Because I belong to a book club we have a few Black people, but for the most part, it's a bunch of white women. And, it's what can we do to make things better? And sometimes I think we get so focused on what we can do that we don't look at our own part, but so I think, we're all kind of in a discovery, and we're all at different places on the journey. I like to talk, and I like to get information from people and interview people that you have written books so beautifully like you have, and see if we can bring to light some of this. But I want to save the world. I just don't know exactly how.
You can save the world. I mean, you.
There you go. That's a good point.
No, neither can I. We cannot change the world, and it's painful because I had ambitions to be one of those glorious changers of these hero women's or men's stories I've read about. But you know what we do, Lisa, you with your podcast, you reach so many people that you set a spark in me. Look, I'm here to talk. I listen to your podcast. I've met hundreds and hundreds of people, and there you stood out, and in that larger community of people who are in dialogue with each other, you stood out because you are honest about your discomfort with white superior structures and taking that for granted. And so here we are, and trust that there will be many others. And for me, it will resonate on and on and on. So you're doing exactly what I think is the only way. You're honest. You're honest about that you don't deserve that superiority and take it for granted, and you don't want to abuse it. You want to relate to Black people as in your shared humanness and our shared human. Yeah. We'll make mistakes, but we will make that effort to get there.
Yes, I mean, I've learned so very much, and I've been very blessed to have Black friends in America and in Africa that are willing to have these talks with me. But to point out, my church is, it's really an all Black church. There are like 3 white people that go there. And we were having a talk about something, and I said, oh, when these shootings happen, we need to have like church forums. And this one woman was like, Lisa, I said, oh, it's my white privilege. She goes, we're used to this. This is new to you, but we've been living with this for years and years. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for saying that to me, because I wouldn't have figured it out on my own that was white privilege. Oh, we need to stop and acknowledge trauma.
I just want to work with you on a new word rather than privilege, but the experience of that limited judgment and projection of my way onto Black life and skewed that happens to me a lot too. And I'm no longer afraid or feel embarrassed because I know I fall into the stereotypical behavior that shows how insulated, that's a nice word for how taken for granted I take the world I live in.
So what is the word that you use instead? White power?
Yeah, power, economic power, white power, white enforcement, white exclusivity, white arrogance.
Well, Elke, you've given me a lot to think about, and I cannot recommend your book highly enough. It's very deep and very revealing, and you are so honest and open. And then to see your journey throughout the book of how you took what happened to you and your feelings as a child growing up in post-Nazi Germany to what it's like being in South Africa post-apartheid. So the book, Can We Talk, Will I Listen? Elke Geising, you are a tremendous inspiration to me.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so very grateful that you invited me. It's been really a confrontation with my own past and what I haven't worked through. And you're very kind and very understanding. And I hope to find white friends like you more, that we can work together, because I think that's what we need to do. We need to find like-minded, like you
Yes.
are, and we are, and then we can reinforce each other as we step out there working. So bless you. Thank you for this.
Well, thank you. Meeting you has been such a gift in my life. And
Same here. Same here.
Yeah. So yes, we do need each other, and we're on the same page. And yes, one person can make a difference.
Yes, for sure. We continue. Thank you.
Yes. Elke Geising. The book is available on Amazon called Can We Talk? Will I Listen? A Journey Towards the Healing Power of Dialogue. My name is Lisa Smith Henderson. The podcast is called Alma, Am I Racist? I hope you will subscribe to our podcast on Podbean and wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. The email address is almaamiracist@gmail.com, and the website, should you like to know more and hear about the spirit of the wonderful woman who was Alma, you can go to our website, almaamiracist.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.